TEFL TESOL Guide to Teaching English Abroad. Part 1. General Information. Introduction. For various historical and economic reasons, English has become the dominant language of the world in the 21st century. English is the language of science, air traffic control, tourism, the internet, and to a very large extent of trade and export. According to the British Council, at least 1 billion people speak or are trying to speak English at the present time, and of those about 300 million people are actively studying the English language. These statistics help to explain the emergence and explosion of the TEFL industry. This is bad news for those without a command of the English language, but very good news for English speakers who find themselves in possession of a commodity that is in much demand throughout most of the world. This guide will hopefully provide you with an insight into the world of teaching English abroad, the qualifications required, as well as an overview of countries and regions where job opportunities are most commonly found. We hope that this information will be of use to you and answer most of your questions regarding this exciting and rewarding opportunity. However, if you have any questions not answered here or on our website www.teflcourse.net, please contact us at courses@tesoltefl.com. What is TEFL TESOL? The above question is probably the one we find ourselves answering the most. The use of these acronyms, amongst others, can be rather confusing, especially as they are frequently used interchangeably. In effect, both of these terms refer to the industry of teaching the English language to people whose native language is not English. Below is a list of definitions which, hopefully, should clarify their meanings. TEFL. Teaching English as a foreign language. This term is predominantly used when English is being taught in a country where it isn't the native language, for example, teaching English to Spanish people in Spain. TESL. Teaching English as a second language. This is where English is being taught to non-native speakers of English in a country where it is the native language, for example, teaching immigrants to the UK, USA. TESOL. Teaching English to speakers of other languages. This term theoretically encompasses both of the above. ELT. This stands for English Language Teaching and is mainly used by institutions in the UK. Whilst there were slight differences in theory, these terms are nowadays used interchangeably, and it should not make any difference to your future career and job prospects, whether you study a TEFL or a TESOL course. Who can teach English abroad? Jobs teaching English are pretty much open to all native or fluent English speakers. However, the vast majority of jobs will require you to have a TEFL TESOL certificate, which can be gained by following a fairly short course, typically of around 4 weeks duration. No previous teaching experience or additional qualifications are usually required, and there is usually also no strict age limit, though individual employers may have personal preferences. Where can I teach English? There are tens of thousands of TEFL TESOL jobs all around the world. There are jobs in virtually every town and city of every country. Salaries and working conditions for teachers vary tremendously from country to country, city to city, and even from school to school. But generally speaking, you can expect to enjoy a comfortable and interesting lifestyle. Some teachers have a definite location in mind, whereas others prefer traveling from country to country teaching as they go. Some decide to teach on a short-term basis, while others make a career of it. But however long and wherever you teach, you will get the opportunity to experience the culture and treasures of that country as a resident and not as a tourist. The world really is your oyster. Students, schools, and timetables. A huge range of people from kindergarten-aged children through to adult business people are studying English, so you can expect to teach a wide variety of students. Some schools specialize in teaching children, while others are more geared towards teaching adult learners. There are teaching positions in state schools, universities, and large multinational companies, but probably the majority of jobs are teaching in private language schools which specialize in providing English tuition to students of all ages and backgrounds. When teaching English abroad, it is useful to do some research into the culture of the country before commencing work. You will find that students in certain countries are notorious for being quiet and studious and less willing to join in communicative activities in the classroom, whereas students of other nationalities are known as being quite boisterous and vocal. Knowing a bit about your students can help you be prepared for all eventualities. Obviously, you will learn about how to deal with different types of students during your TEFL TESOL training. English language teachers typically can expect around 25 classroom hours per week plus a few additional hours for testing, marking homework, writing reports and other administrative duties. These hours could be within a normal 9 to 5 timetable, or they could be early in the morning and then again late afternoon to fit around your students' work school times. Some schools only operate from Monday to Friday, whereas others also open over the weekend as the students have more free time for study on those days. However, a teacher should expect 2 days free work per week plus national holidays. Most schools will close for major holidays such as Christmas, New Year and Easter, though holidays may vary depending on the culture of that country, which gives the teacher an opportunity to visit family and friends at home, or to explore more of the country where they are working. The English language ability level of your students can also vary widely. You may find yourself teaching a group of beginner students, a group of very advanced students, or anything in between. The type of English that is taught can also differ. Younger learners are probably going to be learning more basic English through games and activities, while business people may wish to learn specific English for their industry. Some adults may wish to learn English for traveling purposes. Some might just want conversation to brush up on their language skills, while others want a deeper understanding of the grammar and structure. Fortunately, most employers will provide a curriculum and have a library of textbooks and resource materials that you can utilize in your classes. You could be teaching individual students, small groups or large groups, and so you have to be prepared to teach at all ability levels, age ranges, group sizes and from a variety of materials. This is why some form of training is essential for all responsible teachers. What experience qualifications are required? As mentioned previously, most jobs will require you to have some form of teaching certification to be a teacher. This certification can be quickly and relatively inexpensively obtained through taking a TEFL or TESOL course. These courses will certify you to teach English overseas as well as equipping you with all the knowledge and skills that you need to start teaching English. TEFL courses can be taken as an intensive course in a classroom setting, as a distance learning or online course, or a combination of the two. Other than that, no additional teaching qualifications or experience are usually required. If you wish to specialize in teaching children or teaching business English, then there are additional specialist qualifications that you can obtain. Further information on these qualifications can be found in Part 2 of this guide or on our website www.teflcourse.net. Part 2. TEFL TESOL qualifications. The most common and useful qualification required to teach English abroad is a TEFL TESOL certificate. There is a wide range of such courses offered that vary in duration, study method and price, but most courses are based around the same principle, which is to provide high-quality, practical training. Some courses offered have a greater degree of international recognition and others in quality can vary from company to company, so it is extremely important to make sure that you choose an internationally recognized course that is externally accredited. In-class courses. In-class TEFL courses are 100% based in a classroom, and as a result you get the opportunity to practice teaching real students of English during the course. In-class TEFL courses are intensive, and the course duration is usually 4 weeks, Monday through to Friday with the weekends for free time and revision. Located throughout the world. The most popular locations for taking a course are Thailand, France, Spain, Italy, USA, Australia, England, Costa Rica, Argentina, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, India, Egypt, Brazil, Greece, Japan and the Czech Republic. These locations seem to be the most popular either because there is a wide variety of teaching jobs available in that country or for ease of access. In-class TEFL certification is ideally suited to people that wish to learn the theories, principles and methodologies of TEFL, but also wish to gain practical teaching experience in a supervised environment. This teaching practice is an important aspect of the course and is what separates in-class courses from distance learning options. During the teaching practice part of the course, you will have the opportunity to teach real students of English. During these classes, you will be observed by a qualified trainer, and you will therefore get constructive feedback on your strengths and weaknesses as a teacher. As a result, in-class courses tend to be a bit more expensive than a distance learning option, but are generally more highly valued by employers. You can find more detailed information on in-class courses at www.teflcourse.net. Online courses. Online TEFL courses are offered 100% by distance learning and can be taken with or without the support of a personal online tutor. Some courses offer the option of downloading the course materials so you can work offline, while other courses you need to be online in order to access the materials. Courses can vary in duration, but you should really be looking for a minimum of a 50-hour course, though most employers would prefer you to have a 100-hour course. As it is an online course, there is no classroom time and no teaching practice component. You will, however, usually have the opportunity to see actual lessons taking place through CD-ROM, and some courses are now offering the option to study almost completely by DVD, so it is even more like being in the classroom. Online TEFL courses are primarily designed for those people who wish to train to be an English teacher but have time and/or budget constraints which don't allow them to attend an in-class or combined course. The advantages of online courses are that you are able to study at your own pace and in the comfort of your own home office or anywhere else you have access to the internet. You can literally take the course from anywhere in the world, and online courses are usually priced very reasonably. You can find out more information about online courses at www.teflonline.net. Combined courses. Combined TEFL courses are named as such because they combine the best of the online and in-class TEFL courses. You study the principles and theories of TEFL online at your own pace and then go on to attend a training center, usually for 1 or 2 weeks, to gain classroom teaching practice. These courses are ideal for those people that wouldn't enjoy the intensive nature of an in-class TEFL course but would like to gain some teaching practice. As the combined TEFL course only usually requires 1 or 2 weeks of attendance at a training center, it is also more suited to those who aren't able to attend an in-class TEFL course for 4 weeks. The cost also tends to be slightly lower than an in-class course, so it can be the best of both worlds. The only downside is that combined courses aren't as common, and so the number of locations available for teaching practice is more limited. The combined course features all the same components as an in-class course and therefore results in equivalent TEFL certification. More information on combined TEFL courses can be found at www.teflcourse.net. Specialized advanced courses. A range of more specialized or advanced qualifications is available for teachers that already have or are studying for TEFL certification. Most popular and specialized courses are certifications in teaching business English and specialist certification in teaching English to young learners. Both of these are usually 50-hour online courses and therefore no classroom attendance is required. These are useful qualifications for anyone who wishes to specialize in either of these areas, as well as providing additional useful qualifications to a teacher that has just completed a TEFL TESOL course. The most advanced TEFL TESOL qualification is the Diploma in TEFL. This course is a very high-level, 250-hour course that builds upon knowledge gained from the TEFL certificate course. The TEFL diploma course again is a 100% online course without any requirement for classroom attendance, but you must already possess an internationally recognized TEFL certificate in order to be accepted onto a TEFL diploma course. Beware of courses claiming to be diploma courses but which offer less than 200 hours of study. These qualifications are not true diploma courses, and most employers will not recognize them as such. You can see more information on specialized and advanced courses at www.teflcourse.net. Part 3. Finding a job. Jobs overview. While we help all graduates of our courses find employment, you may find the following information useful if you wish to conduct your own job search. Job prospects for TEFL qualified teachers are excellent worldwide. The pay and conditions offered will vary from country to country and will be influenced by your TEFL training and qualifications. You can find a brief overview of job prospects from continent to continent below. For more detailed on prospects in individual countries, please see Part 5 of this guide. On successful completion of your TEFL course and equipped with your new knowledge and skills, you will find that you will be offered jobs in all corners of the globe. Many teaching jobs are available worldwide, but some regions, such as Asia, Latin America and Europe, have a higher demand for English language teachers. In some countries you will be able to teach in public schools, community colleges and institutes of further and/or higher education, while in others you'll be able to teach at private language schools and within local and multinational companies. Types of employer. Language schools. As the name suggests, language schools are private companies set up for the purpose of providing paid language tuition to the general public. They will usually have a number of classrooms, offices and a teaching resource library. Language schools provide tuition to students of all ages, backgrounds and ability levels. Some schools focus on in-house courses, while others will subcontract teachers to teach in businesses and/or state schools. Most teachers can expect some in-school teaching as well as some traveling to provide lessons to companies. Language schools will usually offer a higher salary than government sector schools, but the holidays are almost always less generous. Language school timetables frequently involve some early morning teaching plus late afternoon, early evening hours, even weekends at some schools, as the students are working or studying during normal school hours. State schools. State schools are government-controlled funded institutions that provide general education to the public. Most state schools provide language tuition as part of the curriculum and therefore need language teachers. In some countries these schools will use local teachers with a good knowledge of the English language, but in other countries there are some opportunities for TEFL qualified, native English-speaking teachers. Salaries usually aren't as high as in the private sector, but timetables are more convenient and holidays are longer. Private companies. In the past, many local and multinational companies contracted language schools to provide their employees with English language tuition to enable them to be able to perform their jobs more effectively. Nowadays, many of these companies are seeing the benefits of directly employing the teachers themselves. Working for a private company will often involve some proofreading of letters, faxes, and emails, as well as English teaching. Salaries are usually quite high in comparison to schools, and the timetable is usually Monday to Friday, 9-5, and therefore most teachers find it more convenient than the hours on offer at language schools. As a result, competition for these jobs can be very high. Universities. Universities that offer language courses will frequently employ native English speaker teachers. Hours are usually quite low, working conditions good and salaries reasonable. Demand for such positions is therefore high, and universities are able to be more selective and choose teachers with the highest qualifications and most experience. Universities are not normally a good source of jobs for the inexperienced newly graduated teacher. Internet search. There are thousands of jobs offered through various TEFL job websites and forums, yet these jobs still only represent a small percentage of the number of jobs available at any one time. Some of these websites focus on a particular city, country, or region, while others are more international. Most of these sites will also give you the opportunity to post your CV resume for potential employers to view and contact you directly with vacancies. If you are searching for a job using the internet, it is also useful to check out the online English language press of the country area where you plan on working, as their classified sections will often list local teaching vacancies. Regional expat discussion forums may also list TEFL jobs from time to time and can be a good source of the latest information of working conditions and work residence visas, etc. While the advent of the internet has made this information freely available, the downside is that everyone else also looking for a job can access the same details, and as such, internet listings can result in hundreds of applications and higher competition for those vacancies. We provide all graduates of our courses with an extensive list of the most popular websites that offer both regional vacancies and job listings from around the world. Recruitment agencies. The use of recruitment agencies to assist in the job search is perhaps lower now than previously, as now many employers can simply list their vacancies on the internet for a much lower cost than the agencies charge. However, some major employers still use these placement organizations to help them fill their teaching vacancies. The quality of recruitment organizations can vary widely. The better ones will have visited the employers they recruit for and will know them inside out, and therefore will be very careful with who they recruit. Sadly, other organizations are happy just to take the recruiter's fee without any real knowledge of who they are recruiting for, and this has led to some unfortunate experiences for teachers. Agencies make their money by charging the employer, and therefore the service to teachers is usually without charge. Some of these agencies specialize in a particular country or region, and others offer a more international range of job opportunities. Often local recruiters are a bit more reliable than the international ones, as they usually have greater first-hand knowledge of the schools and companies that they are recruiting for. We can provide details of some of the major recruitment agencies to graduates of our courses. Mail-email shot. A mail shot, or more frequently these days an email shot, is where a job seeker gets a list of schools in a certain town, city, and sends a letter of application, together with an attached CV resume, to all the schools on the list. This is a speculative approach, as many of the schools will not have any vacancies at that time, but such an approach does offer many advantages. It allows the teacher to target all the schools in a specific town, city, region quickly and efficiently. It reduces competition for any jobs if you can get your application in before the school has the opportunity to advertise a recent vacancy. Many schools rely on speculative applications as they don't incur the costs of international advertising or recruitment agencies. Most schools will keep your application on file, even if there aren't any vacancies at the present time. If the teacher targets enough schools, it is likely that some of them will have a number of vacancies at any given time, and you can expect to receive a variety of job offers, interview invitations within a fairly short space of time. We have a database of language schools throughout the world that we make available to graduates of our courses, but you can also get lists of schools from the Yellow Pages or other directory of the city you are interested in. If there is a British Council office in that area, they will also often be able to supply you with a list of schools. This is perhaps the experienced teacher's favorite method of conducting a job search, but should work equally well for a newly qualified teacher. 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 On the spot. Many schools prefer to recruit their teachers on the spot, as they get to meet them face-to-face, and as the teacher is present at that location, he or she is usually available to start work immediately to fill any urgent vacancies. It can also be advantageous for the teacher as he or she gets the opportunity to see the school, meet and speak to some of the school's current teaching staff, and generally get a feel for the place. Teachers will usually get a list of schools in a particular area, typically from the Yellow Pages or equivalent, and visit those of interest with a copy of their CV resume. This approach can often result in an immediate interview, or at least a face-to-face meeting with the director of studies. Other sources of information for on-the-spot jobs could be in the local English language press and bars, hostels, hangouts of the local expat community. Teachers frequently also advertise their availability for local teaching positions by placing a classified ad in the local press. This is perhaps the most effective way of finding teaching jobs, but the downside is that it may take a week or two, and occasionally longer, to find a suitable position, and therefore it can be expensive while you are hanging around waiting for an offer. Freelancing self-employed. An alternative to working for a school or other employer could be to set yourself up as a freelance teacher and give private lessons to the general public. This can often be more lucrative than fixed contract teaching as there is no middleman. Teachers simply advertise their services in the local press or put posters or notices up around the area in which they wish to teach and then wait to be contacted by prospective students. This can be quite attractive to students as the teacher is usually able to undercut the prices offered by large language schools as these schools have much bigger overheads. Classes usually take place in either the teacher's or student's home office, though some enterprising teachers have started teaching by Skype or similar. Although this can seem an attractive prospect, there are downsides to this approach. There may be legal loops that have to be jumped through to register as a freelance teacher, and tax implications, etc. With no employer, it can be more difficult to get the necessary work residence documentation. It can be quite tough to build up a sufficient number of students initially to make it financially viable. Students are notorious for canceling their classes at short notice and expect not to have to pay for any missed lessons, and if the teacher is sick and has to cancel the classes, he or she will have no income for that period. Therefore, most teachers choose to have the steady income and security offered by a school, but will often freelance for a few hours per week to supplement their salaries. 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 Hours per week to supplement their curriculum vitae resume. Whichever approach you take to finding a job, you will need to prepare a CV resume. This document should give some basic personal information, name, date of birth, contact details, etc., details of your education and qualifications, and also some information about any work experience, particularly related to teaching or training. Employers will often receive dozens of CVs resumes, so it should be clearly presented and structured so that a prospective employer can quickly and easily find all relevant information. Obviously, your CV resume should be focused as much as possible on any experience and qualifications that you have had related to teaching and training, even if it isn't related to languages. We provide all graduates of our courses with detailed guidance on CV resume preparation. Job interviews. Unless teachers are applying for jobs on the spot, it is often difficult to arrange for a face-to-face interview. Consequently, the majority of TEFL job interviews are carried out over the telephone or by email, messenger, Skype. Schools that require a greater number of teachers may arrange for an interview day week in the UK or USA so that they can see prospective employees in person, but this is becoming less frequent. Some schools may task a recruitment agency with the responsibility of handling interviews on their behalf, but again, this is perhaps less common than it used to be. Obviously, it is beneficial if you can arrange a face-to-face interview at the school itself, as this gives you the opportunity to get a feel for the school and the location, and also will allow you to meet other employees and gain a bit more knowledge about what you can expect. However, most schools understand that it is unlikely that teachers would be willing to fly halfway around the world at their own expense in order to attend a job interview. Therefore, most employers are prepared to conduct interviews over the phone or by other means. Bear in mind that the purpose of an interview isn't solely for employers to decide if they want to offer you a job, but also for you to decide if that school is a good fit for you. You therefore need to be prepared to ask questions as well as answer them. Most of the employer's questions will revolve around your experience, qualifications, and suitability for the job, whereas the teacher's questions are more likely to be related to teaching conditions, ages of students, class sizes, available teaching resources, etc., contract terms, working hours, duration of contract, salary and other benefits, etc., and general information about the school and location. It is often useful to ask to speak to one or two of their current employees to find out about the realities of living and working in that location or for that employer. It also helps to check just how reliable the information the school has given you really is. Some schools that are in urgent need of teachers may skip the interview process and offer a teacher a position based purely on the strength of his or her CV resume. However, it is still in the teacher's best interests to speak to the school directly and clarify any unanswered questions before accepting such an offer. We provide all graduates of our courses with lists of questions that you are likely to be asked at interview, and also some ideas of questions that you should be asking before committing to a job. Contracts. Once the teacher accepts a job offer, he or she will usually be presented with a contract which details the terms and conditions of employment and the responsibilities of both parties. Obviously, the content of the contract will vary from job to job, but it should reflect the information provided during the interview. Items that should usually be included in a contract include employment duration, location of employment, working days, hours per week, both teaching and administrative, teaching conditions, teaching support, further training options, salary and other benefits, health insurance, travel expenses, assistance with accommodation, etc., residence and work visas, holiday vacation time, dispute resolution, notice period. Any questions or uncertainties about the contract should be clarified with the employer before signing. Please note that some employers and teachers treat contracts as more of a guideline than a strict legal document, but it is important to have one nonetheless. Part 4. Preparing to go. Leaving your family, friends and home country behind and moving to a new location can be a very exciting but nerve-wracking experience, and it is recommended that you prepare as much as possible for the move. Below are a number of suggestions to help you make this transition a little bit easier. Gaining extra experience. A teacher can never have too much classroom experience, and if you have a reasonable amount of time available before taking up a full-time teaching position, it might be a good idea to try and gain some extra teaching experience. This can be achieved by offering your services to any local language schools that provide English language tuition or offering private lessons to non-native English speakers resident in your area. In some countries, there are also summer camps or summer schools that offer short, intensive language tuition programs and require hundreds of English language teachers for the summer months. These summer programs usually provide accommodation for teachers and reasonably good salaries compared to the cost of living. Research. In order to reduce culture shock as much as possible when moving to a new country, it is important to do as much research as possible on the country, city where you will be living, the school where you will be working, and the students that you will be teaching. The amount of information available on the internet makes it easier than ever to find out details about life in a different country. There are expat chat forums, country information websites, tourist information sites, as well as websites dedicated to providing information about teaching abroad. You may also wish to speak to some of the teachers currently working for your employer to find out about living and working in that location. It is a good idea to get as much information as you can about where you will be living, transport options in that area, where you can go to meet other teachers, English speakers living there, popular bars, restaurants, location of supermarkets, etc. This information will hopefully prevent you feeling a bit lost when you first arrive. In addition to the internet, there are many excellent books, such as the Culture Shock series, which provide a wealth of information about the country, the people and the culture, as well as giving advice on how to avoid some of the negative aspects of life there. It is also useful to conduct some research on problems that people from that country typically have with the English language, as this can help you know what to expect in your first classes. What to take. When you do your research on the city, country where you will be living, you will no doubt gain a fair idea of the climate and therefore also the type of clothing you will need to take with you. However, depending on the country, it may be better to take the minimum and buy the rest while you are there. Make sure you find out from your employer about any dress code for your teaching so that you can take appropriate clothing for your workplace. Even if your employer doesn't require it, it is always useful to have some smart clothing for visits to government offices, for visas and work permits, etc. It is very important to make sure you take enough money with you. Salaries are usually paid 1 month in arrears, so you need to make sure you have sufficient funds to keep you going until your first paycheck. Also be aware that you may need extra amounts for security deposits on your accommodation and so on. In order to obtain your work permit and/or residence visa, you will probably need to produce a copy of your birth certificate and documents verifying your qualifications, degree, TEFL certificate. Therefore, it is essential to make sure you take such documentation with you. It is also essential to ensure that you have an adequate supply of any necessary medication, as it may not be quite so readily available where you are going. Other useful items to pack may include English language novels, magazines, if not readily available locally, laptop, shortwave radio, dictionary, phrasebook, favorite cosmetics, and anything else that you might feel you need in order to help you feel comfortable when you first get there. If you are not sure exactly what you need to bring with you, you can always ask your employer for advice. Of course, taking along some of your favorite teaching resources materials, see the bibliography below, is a good idea. Useful resources bibliography. The following books have been found useful by many teachers during both their TEFL course and teaching careers. Obviously, you won't want to have all of them, but having a few favorites with you is a good idea, especially if teaching resources are a bit thin on the ground in the location where you will be teaching. Of course, there are literally thousands of other resources out there, and over time you will develop your own favorites, but these are the ones we have found to be especially helpful to the new teacher. Practical English Grammar by A.J. Thompson and A.V. Martinet, OOP. As the title suggests, this is an English grammar reference book and perhaps the most widely used book of its kind. English Grammar in Use by Raymond Murphy, Cup. A worksheet-based self-study grammar guide for intermediate-level students. Practical English Usage by Michael Swan, OOP. Regarded by many TEFL teachers as the Grammar Reference Bible. Collins Copfield English Dictionary, Collins. The Patterns of English Language Usage Explained, and probably the most popular dictionary in the TEFL industry. How English Works by Swan Walter, OOP. Descriptive explanations of grammar, though with somewhat dated worksheets. How to Teach English by Jeremy Harmer, Longman. A practical guide to a whole range of teaching techniques. Grammar Games by Maria Rinvolucri and Davis, Cup. Cognitive, practical classroom games and drama activities for effective communication. More Grammar Games by Rinvolucri and Davis, Cup. More cognitive games and drama activities for effective communication. Grammar Practice Activities by Penier, Cup. Grammar Points Explained, with activities to reinforce a wide range of grammar areas. Grammar Games and Activities by Peter Watson-Jones, Penguin. Activity sheets for practicing grammar points that can be photocopied. The Resourceful English Teacher by Chandler Stone, Delta. 15 varied activities for a wide range of skills. 1,000 pictures for teachers to copy by Andrew Wright, Nelson. Pictures for all uses such as elicitation and worksheets. Grammar Games, Cognitive, Affective, and Drama Activities for EFL Students by Maria Rinvolucri. A range of fun activities to practice grammar and get students talking. Beginners Communication Games by Jill Hadfield. Around 40 communicative game-based activities for starter-level students. Elementary Communication Games, Teachers' Resource Materials by Jill Hadfield. Around 40 communicative game-based activities for elementary-level students. Intermediate Communication Games by Jill Hadfield. Around 40 communicative game-based activities for intermediate-level students. Keep Talking. Communicative Fluency Activities for Language Teaching by Friedrich Klippel. Over 120 communicative activities to keep students interacting. Learning the language. As English is usually the only language allowed in a classroom, teachers are seldom required to have any knowledge of the local language. Having said that, it is always useful to have mastered at least a few essential phrases to help you get by when you first arrive. Obviously, if you have taken the job at fairly short notice, you will not have had much time to put into studying the language, but if you do find yourself with a bit of spare time, it would certainly be a good idea to learn the basics. There are many excellent free online resources that can help you get started with the language, and there are many effective self-study courses for those that want to study it in more depth. The most frequently recommended self-study courses are Rosetta Stone, Linguaphone and the Colloquial series, although not all of them are available in all languages and they can be a little expensive. If you have sufficient time before departing, you may also wish to look at any classroom-based courses offered locally. Of course, it is much easier to effectively learn a language when you are there, and many employers will offer you the option to join a local language class, but if not, you should be able to find some classes at language schools that run at times when you are not teaching. Language exchanges, where you provide some English tuition in exchange for the student providing you with some tuition in their language, are quite a popular way of improving your conversational skills as well as helping to get to know more people. Having at least a basic knowledge of your student's language can also allow you to see the differences between that language and English, and this can help you to understand why your students are having difficulties with certain areas of the English language. Part 5. Prospects. Country by Country Guide. For an EFL teacher with an internationally recognized TEFL certificate, job prospects are excellent. The huge desire to learn English in all corners of the globe has resulted in teaching possibilities in almost every country imaginable. There are openings in private language institutes, public schools, universities, business corporations, kindergartens, as well as private tutoring and voluntary work. We will help you at every step of the way to find a suitable teaching position. Our service extends, but is not limited, to contact information and details of schools for the location per second of your choice. Details of selected vacancies available worldwide. Details of the most popular websites of TEFL vacancies and information. Network access for job searches and online applications. Weekly sessions covering CV resume preparation, advice about applications and interviews, and all available information about teaching conditions around the world. Free job placement assistance. For basic details of teaching conditions around the world, see the country factfulls below. Please note that political and economic circumstances change frequently, and this information is intended as a guide only. Western Europe. A lot of teachers initially gravitate to Europe as it provides less culture shock and offers reasonable salaries and working conditions. Europe is fairly diverse when it comes to job prospects and teaching experiences. With the advent of the EU labor law, it is now difficult, and in some cases impossible, for teachers who don't hold an EU passport to get working visas in some countries. This doesn't mean that it's difficult or impossible to find work just to get your official papers in order. However, with the ridiculous bureaucratic requirements still in place in some EU countries, even EU passport holders give up on getting work visas. It will certainly be easier if you are a citizen of an EU member state, but it is not an insurmountable problem if you aren't. Austria. Capital city: Vienna. Language: German. Currency: Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €25 per hour. Major TEFL locations: Vienna, Austria. TEFL job prospects. Most teaching in Austria is done by freelancers working on a self-employed basis who are already resident in the country. Most of this teaching is to the business community. A speculative job search may produce results, but certainly isn't guaranteed to do so. Most work is in the capital and salaries are quite high, but then again, Vienna is a very expensive city. Belgium. Capital city: Brussels. Language: French and Flemish. Currency: Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €22 per hour. Major TEFL locations: Brussels and other major cities. Belgium. TEFL job prospects. As with Austria, most teachers are employed on a freelance basis, and the work is primarily geared towards business English. There are many private language schools in the major cities, and qualified EFL teachers should be able to find suitable work. Salaries are sufficient to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle, providing you can get enough hours. France. Capital city: Paris. Language: French. Currency: Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations: Paris and other major cities. France. TEFL job prospects. France is a very promising destination for a qualified EFL teacher. There are positions available in most major cities, but the vast majority of work is in Paris. Language schools in Paris cater primarily to teaching business people, and any previous knowledge experience of business is useful. France also seems to be one of the easier EU countries for non-EU passport holders. Germany. Capital city: Berlin. Language: German. Currency: Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €2,000 per month. Major TEFL locations: Berlin and other major cities. Germany. TEFL job prospects. As in many other European countries, teaching business people is one of the major options. There are many jobs available throughout the country, and a teacher with a TEFL certificate would have few problems in sorting out employment. Salaries are high, and so is the cost of living. Germans tend to have a preference for American English, and so opportunities also exist for North Americans despite Germany being a major player in the EU. Greece. Capital city: Athens. Language: Greek. Currency: Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €900 per month. Major TEFL locations: all large cities. Greece. TEFL job prospects. There is a huge demand for English in Greece and a vast amount of private language schools to cater to that demand. Most teachers will find themselves working for one of these language schools. Teaching is more geared towards younger learners, but there are teaching possibilities in all areas. The cost of living in Greece is low and the salaries reflect this. A university degree is essential, and any teacher who has a degree, TEFL certificate and an EU passport will have no problem in finding work. Other nationalities may encounter more problems due to EU regulations. Italy. Capital city, Rome. Language, Italian. Currency, Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary, €1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations, all cities. Italy. TEFL job prospects. The current job opportunities in Italy for TEFL teachers are numerous. In some cities there are more jobs than teachers, while in other parts of the country the prospects are still good. In virtually every city in Italy, a qualified TEFL teacher will be able to find a teaching position. Many teachers really enjoy the lifestyle that Italy offers, even if the salaries are fairly low in relation to the cost of living. As Italy is an EU country, work prospects favor British and Irish citizens, though there are literally thousands of Americans teaching there too. Portugal. Capital city, Lisbon. Language, Portuguese. Currency, Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary, €1,300 per month. Major TEFL locations. Major TEFL locations, all large cities. Portugal. TEFL job prospects. Most teachers seem to agree that Portugal is a very pleasant place to work. Salaries are good in relation to living costs, and the lifestyle appeals to many. Plenty of work is available to EU passport holders, and the situation here is also easier for non-EU passport holders. Most work is with younger learners in the larger cities. Scandinavia. Countries, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway. Language, various. Currency, various. Typical TEFL teacher salary, mixed but quite high. Major TEFL locations. Capital cities. Scandinavia. TEFL job prospects. One thing that all Scandinavian countries have in common is a very good standard of English. The state school system in these countries is very good, and so there is little demand for EFL teachers. Finland is possibly the exception, as there are significant numbers of language schools looking to hire native speakers. Some limited opportunities may exist elsewhere, but they are few and far between. Salaries are quite high for Europe, but so are expenses. Spain. Capital city, Madrid. Language, Spanish. Currency, Euro. Typical TEFL teacher salary, €1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations, all major cities. Spain. TEFL job prospects. Spain is a very popular location for English teachers. Its lifestyle and climate are probably the main reasons for this. Another reason may be the easy availability of work for qualified EFL teachers. Teaching is often to younger learners, but also adult and business English teaching form a significant proportion. There are literally thousands of language schools in the larger cities, all of which employ native speaker teachers. Unfortunately, Spain is one of the more difficult countries for non-EU passport holders. Others. Countries. Andorra, Cyprus, Malta, former Yugoslavia. Language, various. Currency, various. Typical TEFL teacher salary varies but usually below average for Europe. Major TEFL locations, larger cities. TEFL job prospects. There are limited work possibilities in these countries. States of former Yugoslavia offer perhaps the greatest range of possibilities. Eastern Europe. The transition to a market economy in many parts of Central and Eastern Europe has resulted in a huge demand for English language teachers, particularly in the business sector. There is plenty of scope for working in almost every country, and employment possibilities are numerous and equally open to every native speaker of English, though this may change when some of the nations in this region become full members of the EU. Finding work in some of the ex-USSR republics can be more problematic for political and economic reasons. The one drawback is the level of salary. These are mainly developing countries and salaries are very low in international terms. However, the cost of living is also very low and most teachers are able to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle, but saving money is not very likely. The countries in which the majority of EFL opportunities exist are detailed below. Bulgaria. Capital city: Sofia. Language: Bulgarian. Currency: Lev. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €900 per month. Major TEFL locations: Sofia, Bulgaria. TEFL job prospects: political change in Bulgaria has perhaps been less dramatic than elsewhere in the region, and as such the private sector is still relatively undeveloped. This means that the vast majority of teaching positions are in state schools, and native-speaking teachers are employed through the Bulgarian Ministry of Education and Science. Salaries, as elsewhere in the region, are low, as is the cost of living. Czech Republic. Capital city: Prague. Language: Czech. Currency: koruna. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 20,000 crowns per month. Major TEFL locations: Prague, Brno. Czech Republic. TEFL job prospects: the Czech Republic is probably the most popular country in the region for qualified EFL teachers. Work is quite easy to obtain, and salaries, while not being of a high level in international terms, offer a reasonably comfortable lifestyle. Any teacher with a TEFL certificate should have little problem in finding work. The beautiful city of Prague is particularly popular. Hungary. Capital city: Budapest. Language: Hungarian. Currency: forint. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 250,000 forints per month. Major TEFL locations: Budapest, Hungary. TEFL job prospects: like other countries in the region, there is a strong demand for qualified TEFL teachers in Hungary, particularly in the capital city. It is estimated that there are over 100 private language schools in Budapest and over 300 in the whole country. Anybody with a TEFL certificate should be able to find employment quite easily. Poland. Capital city: Warsaw. Language: Polish. Currency: zloty. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 2,500 zloty per month. Major TEFL locations: Warsaw, Wrocław, Krakow. Poland. TEFL job prospects: prospects for English teachers in Poland remain probably more promising than anywhere else in the world. There are numerous possibilities in both state and private sectors. There is also a high demand for business English in the major cities. The salaries usually allowed for a relatively comfortable standard of living, but if you are aiming to save money, this or anywhere else in the region is probably not the place for you. Romania. Capital city: Bucharest. Language: Romanian. Currency: leu. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $10 per hour. Major TEFL locations: Bucharest, Timisoara. Romania. TEFL job prospects: due to the weak state of the economy, many Romanian schools are unable to afford the wages of a native speaker teacher. As a result, most English language teaching is done by Romanians or native speakers on voluntary work placements. A number of private language institutions have started to appear, and they would most likely be willing to hire native speaker teachers for local salaries. Baltic states. Countries: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. Language: various. Currency: various. Typical TEFL teacher salary: various. Major TEFL locations: Riga, Vilnius, Tallinn. Baltic states TEFL job prospects. These states were the most westernized part of the old Russian Empire and are presently looking towards EU membership. This has created a strong demand for native speaker teachers, particularly in Lithuania and Estonia, probably the most progressive of the three. There are numerous openings in both the state and private sectors. Salaries again are low by international standards, but high in regard to the cost of living. Qualified teachers who are prepared to travel to the region and look for work should have little difficulty. Ukraine. Capital city: Kiev. Language: Ukrainian. Currency: hryvnia. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $1,000 per month. Major TEFL locations: Kiev, Odessa. Ukraine TEFL job prospects. The huge Republic of the Ukraine has a chronic shortage of English teachers. Many placement organizations are able to send voluntary teachers on a local salary, and a few private language schools have now opened. The EFL market is still very much in its infancy, so prospects for motivated teachers are high. Slovakia. Capital city: Bratislava. Language: Slovak. Currency: crown. Typical TEFL teacher salary: €600 per month. Major TEFL locations: Bratislava, Kosice, Banska, Bystrica. Slovakia TEFL job prospects. The Slovak Republic has often been overlooked as a teaching destination in favor of the neighboring Czech Republic. However, Slovakia is in its own right a promising destination for EFL teachers. Opportunities exist predominantly in private language schools, of which there are many in the larger cities. Russia. Capital city: Moscow. Language: Russian. Currency: rubles. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations: Moscow, St. Petersburg. Russia TEFL job prospects. The demand for the English language is still increasing in Russia, and qualified EFL teachers should have few problems in finding work. Salaries have decreased a little due to economic problems, but still allow the teacher a comfortable standard of living in most cases. Asia. The Asian continent offers a remarkably diverse range of experiences and opportunities to a qualified EFL teacher. In many Asian countries there is a huge demand for English native speakers and some of the highest paying employment in the industry. Anybody with a university degree and a TEFL certificate should find a wide range of opportunities. Industrialized nations such as Japan, Korea, and Taiwan have Western-style economies and a high standard of living, while developing nations like China, Vietnam, and Thailand offer lower salaries but perhaps a greater variety of cultural experience. Asia certainly has something for everyone, and your time there is likely to be unforgettable. Students in most Asian countries are very respectful to teachers, further enhancing your experience. In some of the poorer countries of the region, particularly the Indian subcontinent, paid employment is very difficult to find, and most teachers in those locations are there on voluntary placements. A local wage may be available. China. Capital city: Beijing. Language: Cantonese Mandarin. Currency: renminbi. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 8,000 RMB per month. Major TEFL locations: nationwide. China TEFL job prospects. The demand in China for TEFL teachers is huge. There seems to be far more jobs than teachers, and teachers are needed in all parts of the country, from Beijing to Hong Kong to Mongolia. Any qualified EFL teacher should be able to pick and choose from a wide variety of opportunities throughout the country in both state and private sectors. Salaries and costs can vary tremendously between regions. Indonesia. Capital city: Jakarta. Language: Indonesian. Currency: rupiah. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 10 million rupiah per month. Major TEFL locations: Jakarta, Surabaya, Bandung, Yogyakarta. Indonesia TEFL job prospects. Indonesia is the 5th most populous nation on earth, and, at times, can seem as if all of them are learning English. As a result, there is a great demand for English language teachers throughout the nation. Opportunities can range from state to private sector. Most teachers are employed on the island of Java, though there are many possibilities on other islands too. Japan. Capital city, Tokyo. Language, Japanese. Currency, yen. Typical TEFL teacher salary, 250,000 yen per month. Major TEFL locations: Tokyo, Osaka. Japan TEFL job prospects. There are countless job opportunities in Japan for TEFL qualified teachers. In Tokyo and Osaka there can be more jobs than teachers, while in other parts of the country the prospects are still good. Teachers are usually highly respected by Japanese students, and they are generally highly motivated and willing to learn. Salaries don't seem to have changed much in recent years, and so it is not as attractive a location as it once was, but most teachers are still able to save considerable amounts without having to live too frugal a lifestyle. A university degree is essential for obtaining a work permit. South Korea. Capital city, Seoul. Language, Korean. Currency, won. Typical TEFL teacher salary, 2.2 million won per month. Major TEFL locations: Seoul, Busan. South Korea TEFL job prospects. South Korea has a huge demand for EFL teachers and offers some of the highest paid EFL employment. Opportunities exist in the state sector, but most teachers find themselves working in one of the thousands of Hagwons, private language institutes, throughout the country. A large percentage of teachers are employed in Seoul or Busan, but there are employment possibilities in smaller cities and towns also. Many teachers complain of the working conditions, but others feel that the high salaries counterbalance this. Teachers willing to work overtime can be earning up to $6,000 per month. Any qualified teacher who has our university degree and a TEFL certificate should have no problem whatsoever in finding employment. Taiwan. Capital city, Taipei. Language, Chinese. Currency, New Taiwan dollar. Typical TEFL teacher salary, $2,000 per month. Major TEFL locations: Taipei. Taiwan TEFL job prospects. The EFL industry in Taiwan is booming, and job opportunities for native speakers with a degree and TEFL qualification abound. Salaries are quite high and working conditions are reasonable. Teaching positions are normally found in the hundreds of bushibins, private schools, throughout the country. There does seem to be a preference for American English, but other native speakers will encounter little difficulty in finding work. Thailand. Capital city, Bangkok. Language, Thai. Currency, baht. Typical TEFL teacher salary, 35,000 baht per month. Major TEFL locations: Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Phuket, Hat Yai. Thailand TEFL job prospects. The current job opportunities in Thailand for TEFL teachers are numerous. In Bangkok there are far more jobs than teachers, while in other parts of the country the prospects are still good. In virtually every city in Thailand, if a qualified TEFL teacher decides they want to live there, they will be able to find a teaching position. Teachers are highly respected by Thai students, and they are generally highly motivated and willing to learn. They are also great fun. As Thailand is such an attractive country in which to work, there are many unqualified teachers looking for a job. A TEFL qualified teacher will find work very easily. Singapore. Capital city, Singapore. Language, Mandarin Chinese, Malay, Tamil, English. Currency, Singapore dollar. Typical TEFL teacher salary, $3,000 per month. Major TEFL locations: throughout the state: Singapore TEFL job prospects. Singapore is a very wealthy and westernized city-state in which there is a considerable demand for qualified EFL teachers. While salaries are reasonably high, Singapore certainly isn't the cheapest place to live and work. Work is not quite so easy to find as elsewhere in Asia, but a qualified teacher with a university degree should be able to find a few openings. Malaysia. Capital city. Kuala Lumpur. Language. Bahasa Malaysia. Currency. Ringgit. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $1,200 per month. Major TEFL locations. Kuala Lumpur. Malaysia TEFL job prospects. The current situation for English language teachers in Malaysia is similar to that in Singapore. There is a reasonable demand and qualified teachers should, with a little patience, be able to find a suitable position. Salaries are about $1,000 per month, and while this is lower than Singapore, the cost of living is much lower. Vietnam. Capital city. Hanoi. Language. Vietnamese. Currency. Dong. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $20 per hour. Major TEFL locations. Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi. Vietnam TEFL job prospects. Following a fairly turbulent recent past, Vietnam has now stabilized, and as a result the demand for English has exploded. Well-paid employment is quite easy to find in the major cities, and qualified teachers shouldn't have any problems. Compared to the cost of living, salaries are high. Outside the two largest cities, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, work is mainly on a voluntary basis, and there are numerous organizations who can help arrange this. Laos. Capital city. Vientiane. Language. Laotian. Currency. Kip. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations. Vientiane. Laos TEFL job prospects. The situation in Laos is very similar to that in Vietnam. Quite well paid, in comparison to the low cost of living, work is available in the capital and mainly voluntary work elsewhere. The demand for native speaker teachers of English is very high. Cambodia. Capital city. Phnom Penh. Language. Khmer. Currency. Real. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $1,800 per month. Major TEFL locations. Phnom Penh. Cambodia TEFL job prospects. See Laos and Vietnam. Indian subcontinent. Countries. India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Language. Various. Currency. Various. Typical TEFL teacher salary. Mainly voluntary teaching positions in this region. Indian subcontinent TEFL job prospects. Job opportunities in this region are almost always on a voluntary basis. There are various voluntary placement agencies who can arrange unpaid or sometimes local salary employment for qualified EFL teachers. Latin America. The continent of South America, together with Central America, offers a wide range and variety of teaching opportunities. The cultural diversity and Latin charm combine to make this region an attractive destination for EFL teachers. On the whole, salaries are low, but this is compensated for by the low cost of living. Most schools in the region cannot afford to advertise vacancies internationally, so most hiring is done on the spot. Argentina. Capital city. Buenos Aires. Language. Spanish. Currency. Peso. Typical TEFL teacher salary. 35 pesos per hour. Major TEFL locations. Buenos Aires. Argentina TEFL job prospects. Argentina has always had a substantial English-speaking population, and as a result TEFL jobs were never easy to come by. Recent economic and political problems can only serve to decrease demand for native speakers. Some opportunities may still exist teaching business English on a freelance basis, but there are many more promising destinations for the EFL teacher than Argentina. Bolivia. Capital city. La Paz. Language. Spanish. Currency. Boliviano. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $4 per hour. Major TEFL locations. La Paz. Bolivia. TEFL job prospects. As with most countries in the region, jobs are quite easy to find, but salaries are very low. Most jobs seem to be in La Paz, but there are certainly opportunities elsewhere in the country for those prepared to accept a local wage. The cost of living is low, which means that despite the low salaries, teachers can enjoy a reasonable standard of living. Brazil. Capital city. Brasilia. Language. Portuguese. Currency. Real. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $1,200 per month. Major TEFL locations. São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. Brazil. TEFL job prospects. Brazil is the 5th largest country in the world, and there are good job prospects in all of the larger cities, as well as some smaller ones. Qualified teachers in Brazil can usually find work easily. Trying to arrange employment from outside Brazil can be considerably more hit or misses. Salaries usually afford teachers a comfortable lifestyle. Chile. Capital city. Santiago. Language. Spanish. Currency. Peso. Typical TEFL teacher salary. 500,000 pesos per month. Major TEFL locations. Santiago, Punta Arenas. Chile. TEFL job prospects. Chile has one of the stronger economies in Latin America, and the growth in demand for the English language has matched the economic growth. There is a booming market for business English and an increasing demand for teachers of children. There are many private language schools, particularly in the capital, and certified EFL teachers should have little problem in finding suitable employment. Colombia. Capital city. Bogotá. Language. Spanish. Currency. Peso. Typical TEFL teacher salary. 16,000 pesos per hour. Major TEFL locations. Bogotá, Medellín, Cali, Barranquilla. Colombia. TEFL job prospects. Despite the increasing demand, Colombian language schools find it difficult to attract native speaker teachers due to Colombia's reputation for crime and violence. In reality, EFL teachers are unlikely to find themselves victims, and for any teacher willing to work for the low salaries on offer, the prospects are good. Ecuador. Capital city. Quito. Language. Spanish. Currency. US dollar. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $8 per hour. Major TEFL locations. Quito, Guayaquil, Cuenca. Ecuador. TEFL job prospects. Ecuador is one of the most attractive and most stable countries in the region. Salaries are low, but so is the cost of living, and teachers can afford a reasonably comfortable lifestyle. Jobs are plentiful in the major cities, and there is a particular demand for American English. Voluntary work is also possible. Mexico. Capital city. Mexico City. Language. Spanish. Currency. Peso. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $10 per hour. Major TEFL locations. All large cities. Mexico. TEFL job prospects. Due to its close proximity to the USA, there is a huge demand for the English language in Mexico. The demand for native speaker teachers is enormous almost everywhere, and any qualified EFL teachers should be able to find work in the location of their choice. There is also significant demand for business English in the major cities. Peru. Capital city. Lima. Language. Spanish. Currency. New sold. Typical TEFL teacher salary. $9 per hour. Major TEFL locations. Lima, Peru. Job prospects. There is an enormous demand for English and native speaker teachers. However, the low salaries, difficulty in obtaining working papers and bad reputation of the country in safety terms generally mean that it is often ignored by English teachers. Yet the range of opportunities in Lima is enormous for those willing to overlook the downside. Venezuela. Capital city: Caracas. Language: Spanish. Currency: Bolivar Verde. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $650 per month. Major TEFL locations: Caracas, Mérida, Puerto La Cruz. Venezuela TEFL job prospects: the current political and economic situation is rather turbulent, and as a result Venezuela, once an appealing TEFL location, is perhaps best avoided. Hopefully this situation will change in the near future. Others countries: Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, etc. Language: Spanish and others. Typical TEFL teacher salary: various. Major TEFL locations: capital cities. Others TEFL job prospects: if you happen to be in the area, it would probably be fairly simple to arrange work in Central America. However, with the exception of Costa Rica, salaries are likely to be impossibly low. Very few positions are ever advertised, and you would probably need to refer to the yellow pages and present yourself to language schools listed there. Costa Rica is somewhat more promising, and there is a reasonably high demand for native speaker teachers at reasonable salary levels. Middle East. Oil wealth has meant that many of the countries of the Middle East have been able to pay high salaries to attract the best and most qualified teachers. As a result, there are not many opportunities for the recently qualified teacher. Turkey is the exception, where thousands of newly qualified teachers find employment. The lifestyle and strict conditions found in some of the oil-rich nations may not appeal to all. Recent political events in the region may ultimately create more demand or reduce it. Time will tell. Bahrain. Capital city: Manama. Language: Arabic. Currency: Bahraini dinar. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $1,500 tax-free. Major TEFL locations: nationwide. Bahrain TEFL job prospects: Bahrain is among the more liberal of the oil states and one which attracts foreigners, including women, because of its tolerance to women in the workplace. Opportunities mainly exist in companies, colleges, or private language schools. Israel. Capital city: Jerusalem. Language: Hebrew. Currency: shekel. Israel TEFL job prospects: due to the large number of native-speaking Jews who have settled in Israel, almost all positions are filled from the local population, and there is no active recruitment of foreign teachers. Kuwait. Capital city: Kuwait City. Language: Arabic. Currency: Kuwait dinar. Typical TEFL teacher salary: US $30,000 per year. Major TEFL locations: nationwide. Kuwait job prospects: the general consensus seems to be that the glory years of extremely high, tax-free salaries are over in Kuwait. While that may be true, the salaries offered are still higher than most other countries. Opportunities usually only exist for the highly qualified and experienced. Lebanon. Capital city: Beirut. Language: Arabic. Currency: Lebanese pound. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $1,000 and up. Major TEFL locations: Beirut. Lebanon TEFL job prospects: Lebanon is only just emerging from its turbulent past, and job opportunities are presently limited to placements through voluntary agencies. A teacher on the spot may well be able to arrange work for a local salary. Hopefully, the future will bring with it a greater variety of possibilities in this tiny but fascinating country. Oman. Capital city: Muscat. Language: Arabic. Currency: Rial. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $20,000 per annum tax-free. Major TEFL locations: Muscat, Oman. TEFL job prospects: despite a fast expanding EFL market, there is no room here for the casual traveling teacher as a tight control of tourist visas is maintained. It is essential to have in mind a related subject plus 3 years of experience to even be considered. Jobs are well paid and not too difficult to find if you meet the above criteria. Saudi Arabia. Capital city: Riyadh. Language: Arabic. Currency: Riyal. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $3,000 per month tax-free plus other perks. Major TEFL locations: various. Saudi Arabia job prospects: like Kuwait, the days of wonderfully high salaries are probably over. However, the salary package usually compares favorably with almost every other country. Teachers are usually required to have the highest qualifications and substantial experience. Not many women are employed, and some teachers find the rules and regulations of life in Saudi Arabia rather too restrictive. Syria. Capital city: Damascus. Language: Arabic. Currency: Syrian pound. Typical TEFL teacher salary: US $400 per month. Major TEFL locations: Damascus. Syria. TEFL job prospects: Syria is not a wealthy country and salaries are considerably lower than those offered in oil-rich countries. There are a limited number of opportunities in the private language schools in Damascus. Teachers should arrange teaching positions and contracts before arrival. Turkey. Capital city: Ankara. Language: Turkish. Currency: Turkish lira. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $1,500 per month. Major TEFL locations: Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir. Turkey. TEFL job prospects: there is an enormous demand for English teachers in Turkey, particularly in the larger cities. Salaries are reasonable, and most teachers are able to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle. Opportunities primarily exist within the private educational sector. Most teachers seem to find teaching and living in Turkey an enjoyable experience. A university degree is essential for working in Turkey. United Arab Emirates. Capital city: Abu Dhabi. Language: Arabic. Currency: UAE dirham. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $3,500 per month plus benefits. Major TEFL locations: Dubai, Abu Dhabi. United Arab Emirates job prospects: as in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, reasonably well-paid jobs exist for those with prior teaching experience. Salaries are a bit lower, but so are the educational requirements. Many teachers find the UAE less restrictive than some of the other Gulf states. Qatar. Capital city: Doha. Language: Arabic. Currency: Riyal. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $3,500 per month. Major TEFL locations: Doha, Al Wakra and elsewhere. Qatar. TEFL job prospects: Qatar. TEFL job prospects in 2010, Qatar had the world's highest GDP per capita, and their recent strides forward financially show no signs of slowing down. There's a huge need for qualified TEFL teachers in Qatar, from language academies to call center training and teaching English in banks. Others. Countries: Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. Language: Arabic. Currency: various. Major TEFL locations: capital cities. Others. TEFL job prospects: at present there are no real teaching opportunities in other Middle Eastern nations. However, in the light of recent events, it is possible that some voluntary positions may arise in the future. Africa. The English language teaching situation in Africa is at best rather confusing. Many ex-colonies of Britain use English as the medium of instruction in state schools, and so most teachers are locals. Some advanced level positions may be available in universities in such locations. In other African countries, English is much in demand, but few schools are able to afford a native speaker teacher, and so positions are largely filled by voluntary workers, though sometimes paying a local salary. There are many placement organizations that can arrange voluntary work in Africa, should that be your aim. There is some work available in South Africa, but as many of their citizens speak English as a native language, opportunities for non-South Africans are somewhat limited. Zimbabwe used to offer a number of possibilities, but recent political events have curtailed most TEFL activity. Some opportunities exist in almost all countries, but the only African nations where there is any significant scope for working in private language schools or institutes are detailed below. Egypt. Capital city: Cairo. Language: Arabic. Currency: Egyptian pound. Typical TEFL teacher salary: 3,000 Egyptian pounds per month. Major TEFL locations: Cairo, Alexandria, Egypt. TEFL job prospects: the current demand for TEFL teachers in Egypt is quite high. In locations such as Cairo, Alexandria, Heliopolis, Madi, and Zamalek there are opportunities for qualified TEFL teachers, while in other parts of the country the prospects are still good. There is work in the business and tourism sectors, as well as in private language schools which are numerous in the major cities. Qualified teachers should also have little trouble in arranging private tutoring work. Kenya. Capital city: Nairobi. Language: Swahili. Currency: Kenyan shilling. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $10 per hour. Major TEFL locations: Nairobi, Kenya. TEFL job prospects: some work is available in Kenya at government-sponsored schools and institutes, and also at a few private language and full curriculum schools. Salaries are not high by international standards, but are sufficient to lead a relatively comfortable life. Many more opportunities exist through voluntary placement schemes that may provide a basic local salary. Morocco. Capital city: Rabat. Language: Arabic. French also widely spoken. Currency: Moroccan dirham. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $20 per hour. Major TEFL locations: Rabat, Tangier, Agadir, Casablanca, Fez. Morocco job prospects: despite being a francophone country, English is increasingly a requirement for entrance to universities and high-ranking jobs. As a result, there is a steady demand for English language teachers. Almost all state sector positions are filled by Moroccans, but there is a continuing demand for native speakers in private language schools and in the business community. A degree is necessary to be eligible for a work permit. Qualified TEFL teachers shouldn't have any great problem in finding employment in the major cities. Tunisia. Capital city: Tunis. Language: Arabic. French also widely spoken. Currency: Tunisian dinar. Typical TEFL teacher salary: $14 hour. Major TEFL locations: Tunis plus tourist destinations. Tunisia TEFL job prospects: like its neighbor Morocco, Tunisia is turning away from the language of its former colonial master France. Many Tunisians are starting to learn English for study and work purposes, and as a result there is a reasonable demand for native speaker teachers, particularly in the capital and areas with a high level of employment in the tourism industry. North America. There is a huge demand for teaching English in the USA and Canada. While in most countries of the world business and academy-type English is most common, in North America the emphasis is more on ESL, English as a second language. Just about every university and college in major cities has an ESL program, as do a variety of government and charitable organizations. Although the demand for ESL teachers is enormous, it is extremely difficult for non-US citizens who do not have a green card to get a working visa. Therefore, the majority of positions are filled by local citizens, usually on a part-time basis. ESL teaching is not particularly well paid in comparison to the cost of living, and hourly rates of $30 are the norm. Australasia. The EFL industry in Australia has changed considerably in recent years. Previously, many Asian students of English would go there for intensive English courses, but the economic problems in Asia in the 90s led to a marked decline in the number of fee-paying students. This has resulted in a loss of job opportunities for both Australian and foreign English language teachers. The outlook is not totally bleak, and some opportunities still do exist, but as competition for positions is tough, schools are able to demand higher qualifications and more experience from teachers. The IT profession is strictly regulated in Australia and standards are high in both public and private sectors. There is a nationally agreed pay scale for EFL teachers of $18,000, $30,000 per year. However, highly trained Australian EFL teachers cannot always find jobs. As in the USA, a large proportion of local EFL/ESL teaching is done by volunteers. One option that may be appealing for Britons, Irish, and Canadians less than 30 years of age is the possibility of a working holiday visa. This is a 12-month non-renewable visa that allows you to work in any one job for a maximum of 3 months. This can be quite convenient for the teacher traveler who would like short-term contracts while traveling around the country. United Kingdom. The demand for English language teaching in the UK can be divided into 2 categories, permanent and summer school. Permanent positions are hard to come by as every year many very experienced and qualified EFL teachers return to the UK in search of employment. This creates fierce competition for available jobs. This is perhaps surprising considering that these jobs are not usually on competitive salaries when compared to the cost of living in the UK. Summer school work is a different story. It is estimated that there are over 800 language schools in operation during July and August catering to foreign students on intensive English language learning holidays. This creates a huge number of opportunities for a qualified EFL teacher. Such positions are often well paid and sometimes, in the case of residential schools, even come with free accommodation and meals.